Hello, I'm Niobe Way. I'm a developmental psychology professor at New York University, and today we're going to be talking about the crisis of connection among adolescent boys. And this work comes from over 3 decades of work on boys' social and emotional development. And as a developmental psychologist, what I do in my research is I study boys longitudinally, so I follow them from early to late adolescence. So what I'm going to talk about today are the findings coming from boys' narratives from early to late adolescence. When you listen to young boys in early adolescence, they sound like this. This is Justin at the age of 14, and I'm going to read it now. He says, in response to a question about his close friendships, he says, "My best friend and I love each other. That's it. You have this thing that is deep, so deep it's within you, you can't explain it. It's just a thing that you know that that person is that person, and that is all that should be important in our friendship. I guess in life, sometimes two people can really understand each other and really have a trust, respect, and love for each other. It just happens. It's human nature." The next quote I'm going to read for you is Hector, who at the age of 14 as well said, in response to a question about his friendships, he says, "I've got 2 best friends, Willie and Brian. Like sometimes when me and Willie argue, me and Brian are real close. Then when me and Brian are not doing so good, me and Willie are real close. It's like circles of love. Sometimes we're all close." So Michael says, at the age 14 as well, he says, "My ideal best friend is a close friend who I could say anything to. Because sometimes you need to spill your heart out to somebody, and if there's nobody there, then you're going to keep it inside. Then you'll have anger, so you need somebody to talk to always." This is quite surprising in a context in which we frame boys as emotionally illiterate, as wanting independence and competition in their friendships, rather than wanting emotional intimacy. And yet, what we hear boys consistently, 85% of the hundreds and hundreds of boys I've interviewed over the past 30 years have repeated these themes of wanting and having, at times, these kinds of emotionally intimate friendships. Yet something begins to change as they get into late adolescence, and this is where we begin to hear the story of the crisis of connection. When boys transition into late adolescence, they start to sound very different than what they did in early adolescence. They start in many ways to sound like the gender stereotype. So let's listen to one boy at age 16. He says, when asked if he has friendships in his senior year of high school, he says, "No. I don't say I have a male best friend because I feel that a friend is going to be there for you, and he'll support you and stuff like that. Whether they're good and bad times, you can share with him. You could share your feelings with him, your true feelings. That's why I don't think I have any real close friends. Yeah, basically I hate it. I hate it because, you know, I wouldn't mind talking to somebody my age, that I can relate to him on a different basis." What you hear in that narrative is a desire, not only the expression of a desire for close friendship, but the frustration of not finding the kinds of friendships that he wants. Boys during late adolescence start to talk about losing their friendships, struggling to trust their friendships, struggling to maintain their friendships, in a ways that suggest that they are genuinely struggling and facing a crisis. They begin to say that they would like such friendships, but they don't have them. They also begin to say things like, "I don't care," whatever. When asked about their friendships, even though further in their narratives or in their interviews, they talk about actually wanting them, but covering them over with saying things like, "I don't care." So for example, you have a boy who at 14 years old will talk about his having a close friendship, the importance of sharing deep secrets with that friendships, and by the time he's in late adolescence, he'll say things like, "I'm not gay." In response to the very same question that we asked him previously. When asked if he has a close friendships, he'll say, "I'm not gay." So what boys basically begin to learn as they get into late adolescence is that wanting these friendships has now been framed as something that's girly or gay. I work with a group of middle school boys in New York City, and after the mass violence happened in Newtown, Connecticut, and I went into the classroom of 7th grade boys, and I asked them about why they thought that Adam Lanza committed this crime in terms of killing all these young people and teachers. And the boys paused for a moment and they said, "Because he's crazy." And I said to the boys, "Well, but the question is, why is he crazy? What made him crazy?" And 3 boys said in unison to me, they said, "Loneliness." And I said, looking at them, wondering how they were going to explain this. I said, what's the link between loneliness and violence? And then all of a sudden you had 24 boys raise their hand, wanting to tell their own stories about when they felt lonely, when they felt excluded, when they felt like they didn't have the friendships that they wanted. It made them angry, and this oftentimes made them feel violent in all sorts of ways. What you hear is boys directly linking loneliness and anger certainly can lead to all sorts of violence, including self-directed violence. So what boys teach us is that adolescence is actually a period not only of growth but also of loss, particularly the relationships that they hold so dear to their hearts. And what we hear among boys is that boys start to focus on who they are not during late adolescence. They are not childish, nor are they girls, nor in the case of straight boys are they gay. And they become obsessed with this idea that they need to prove their manhood. Boys, in other words, grow up to be stoic, autonomous, and lonely. And today what I want to talk about is, why should we care about this? Why should we care about the loss of relationships for boys in late adolescence, about the struggle to maintain social connections? And what is at the root of that? Why are we seeing that pattern?